there! Hope you're doing well and staying safe. We are so glad to have you guys back. If you've been following us for a while, you probably have seen our garden layout already. But if you're new here, we live in Zone 6 in the US and have a backyard garden with around 20 raised beds. And this is our third year of gardening in this space. To be more efficient and to keep at least some aspects of maintaining a garden on autopilot mode, one thing which certainly helps us is to have some sort of a garden schedule. As we're putting together our 2021 garden schedule, we thought you guys might be interested to come along and see how we go about it, and maybe this could help you come up with a schedule of your own for your balcony, your terrace, or backyard garden. So the things that you'll need, the list of crops you want to grow this year, of course, and the seed packets, pen, a piece of paper, and a monthly calendar like this in which you can maintain some notes for each day or week. I personally prefer a hard copy calendar and like to put it in a spot where I can see it every day. But if you prefer an electronic reminder instead, you could just use your phone or computer. One suggestion here would be to make sure your seed packets are from a good and a reliable source. The reason being, usually these packets contain valuable growing information on the back, which will make it very easy for us to make a schedule. If, however, say you're saving seeds from the kitchen or from your last year's garden, you can certainly Google these as well. Moving to some terms which we'll see often in seed packets. First, if it's recommended to direct sow this crop or to indoor start and then transplant. If you're new to these terms, what this basically says is, if this particular crop is best when sown directly in the soil where you intend to grow it and when the weather is ideal, or if it's a good idea to start baby plants indoors in a greenhouse and then transplant the seedling to the final intended growing location. In general, most root crops, cold hardy plants, and plants which might not like their roots to be disturbed after sowing are generally directly sown, and heat loving plants and the ones which take longer to mature are started inside. Second, if it is recommended to succession sow this crop every n number of weeks. As the name suggests, what this basically says is, if say instead of planting a handful of cilantro or methi seeds all at once and being left with a ton of greens that you may or may not be able to consume, it might be a wise idea to sow some part of the seeds every week successively, so you have like a continuous harvest in the next several months. This is usually applicable for crops which have a short turnaround time. However, for things like tomatoes which take 3 to 4 months to yield fruits, this wouldn't be a great idea. And finally, when to direct sow or indoor sow and transplant each crop. So say if you're in a tropical climate like India or Southern California, you have a beautiful weather to grow things all year round. But if you're in some other part of the world where there are extreme seasons, your actual growing season might be limited. So seed packets sold in the US or Europe, for instance, always carry this information saying when is it a good time to start a particular seed relative to your specific zip code and also depending upon the plant's specific needs. So the first thing would be to mark your growing season, meaning the first frost date and the last frost date. So in our case, it's April 3rd week and October 3rd week roughly. So I like to round it off to the weekends and just add a note here. The next thing would be marking weeks before the last frost date. So say if the week of April 24th is week 0, when we start having a good season, the week prior to it I just mark -1, -2 and so on. Okay, so let's pick our first crop, say tomatoes. If you refer to the seed packet, it says start indoors 6 to 10 weeks before the last frost date. and it also doesn't specify anything about succession sowing. So going back, we know this needs to be started indoors and then transplanted, and roughly say 8 weeks before April 24th, and it also doesn't need to be succession sown. Next, let's take another example, say green beans. It says direct seed after the last frost, so that's good. There's no need to babysit this plant at home before April. So, say every week after the last frost date, on the week of April 24th, we can start directly sowing this seed outside. And another thing it says is succession plant for a prolonged harvest. So, meaning instead of planting, say, 20 green bean seeds all at once, we can plant 5 each week for 4 weeks, and you'll have a staggered harvest for a long time. So there you go. This is a rough process we follow for each crop, and we also add a post-it on the days we need to start the seeds and transplant them. So every time we see the calendar, we know what tasks we have this weekend, and it helps us to go on an autopilot mode and not to worry about having missed out a particular crop's growing window. I know the first thought that might come for someone who is looking at it might be that this probably can be done quite easily online, or there must be apps to do this, right? And yes, you're right, there are apps which help you do some sort of garden planning, and we have used them in the past. But since we grow a lot of Indian, Asian, and also the regular vegetables, we find that there is no good resource available online to kind of plan for all the varieties of crops. Hence, we kind of customize and make our own plan. But if you're new, certainly find an app which is going to make it much easier for you. We hope this was helpful for you guys and gave you some inspiration to make a plan for your garden space. Don't feel compelled to start seeds indoors for some crops like us, for instance. Your reminder could certainly be something which says buy transplants in that week. That way you just have it all covered and planned. And if you live in a tropical climate, you should be able to grow most crops throughout the year. So just find a weekend in which you have some time, gather your supplies and get started. Alright folks, thanks for your time. Have a great day. The Horticulture signing off. See you guys on another video.